USA. USA. Thank you very much. I started my presidential campaign 19 months ago, and the Democrats fought. They canceled the primary so I couldn't run, and they canceled the debates, and then I switched to independence. And I was taking more votes away from Donald Trump than the Democrats. But Donald Trump never sued me, and he never said anything nasty about me. He was always very civil. And the Democrats sued me, and they sued me to keep me off the ballot. They spent $10 million. They filed suits in 10 states. And then when I endorsed President Trump in August, they sued me to keep me on the ballot. And they lost most of those suits. Yes, 2 days ago, they won 2 of them in Wisconsin and in Michigan. And why did they do that? They did that because they want to confuse the voters. They want to interfere with the election because they're keeping somebody on the ballot who's not running. So when you go to the voting booth on Tuesday, you're going to see my name on the ballot. I do not want your vote. I want you to vote for Donald Trump. Because I do. The only way I'm going to go to Washington is if we get Donald Trump elected. And that's the only way we're going to fix this catastrophe that is impacting our children, this chronic disease epidemic. When I was a 10-year-old boy, my uncle was president of the United States, and 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, 60% do. When my uncle was president, we spent 0 on chronic disease in this country. There wasn't even medications for any chronic diseases. Today, we spend $4.3 trillion every year. It's 5 times our military budget. It is bankrupting our country. It is hurting our national security. 77% of American children cannot qualify for military service because of a chronic disease diagnosis. When my uncle was president, 3% of Americans were obese. Today, 50% of our children are obese. And this isn't true in other countries. In other countries, it's the same as it was then. In Japan, 3% of the people are obese. It's impacting our country because we're mass poisoning ourselves, and we're poisoning our children. There's 1,000 ingredients in our food that are illegal in Europe. And the problem is not those ingredients. The problem is the corruption in Washington, D.C., the capture of our agencies. And the only president who's going to clean that up is Donald J. Trump. We have the sickest children in the world. When I was a kid, the autism rates, and today in my generation, 70-year-old men, 1 in 10,000 of us has autism. In my children's generation, it's 1 in every 34 children, 1 in every 24 in California. When I was a kid, juvenile diabetes was unknown. The typical pediatrician would see 1 case of diabetes in his entire career, a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walks through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. We are killing our kids. 40% of our kids are on antidepressants. The sperm counts have dropped 50%. Testosterone levels have dropped 50%. American girls are reaching puberty at 10 to 13 years old, 6 years younger than they were a generation ago. Oh, we are destroying these children. I had 11 brothers and sisters. I had 70 first cousins. I never knew anybody with a peanut allergy. Why do 5 of my kids have peanut allergies? Why do all of our kids have eczema and asthma and allergies? This is not normal. I know what a normal child looks like. And our kids today are injured and they're damaged. And they're damaged because we're being poisoned. And that comes from corruption. Oh. I started working on this issue 19 years ago. And for 19 years, I have got every morning, without one exception, I have said a prayer to God to put me in a position where I could end the chronic disease epidemic. And on August 23rd of this year, God sent me Donald J. Trump. And Donald Trump said to me in Milwaukee, we met for 2.5 hours, and he said, I want you to join my campaign and unify our efforts, and I'm going to end the foreign wars, the addiction to war. The $200 billion that we sent to Ukraine, we're going to spend it here in the United States. And he told me, we're going to end the censorship. We're going to end the surveillance. We're going to end the weaponization of our enforcement agencies against the American people. And he knew that my uncle, Ted Kennedy, wrote Title IX to make sure that women's sports are protected in schools. And he said, we're going to end the efforts of the Democratic Party, the war that they're making on women's sports in schools. And he said, we're going to end the chronic disease epidemic, and we are going to make America healthy again. Oh, don't you want a president who's going to get the toxins out of our food? Oh, you want a president who's going to end the corruption in Washington, D.C.? And don't you want a president who's going to end all the foreign wars that are sucking away our money and our... And don't you want a president who's going to end the censorship, end the surveillance, and protect the Constitution of the United States? And don't you want a president who's going to make this a free country again, where we treasure our liberties? A president who's going to make America healthy again. A president who's going to make America great again. And let's go to the polls on Tuesday and deliver a landslide for Donald J. Trump. Thank you all very much.